On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're embarking on a global journey to celebrate our favorite desert homes. First, we'll transport you to a serene Moroccan oasis where timeless decor, modern design, and sustainability come together in perfect harmony. Next, we head to Phoenix, Arizona, to explore a beautifully restored century-old Pueblo home that blends rich history with contemporary flair and is completed by a stunning garden full of incredible plants. Lastly, we'll hop over to another Phoenix retreat, where a tranquil family home showcases personal artistry and meaningful treasures gathered from their travels. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Scan the QR code to subscribe to our new channel, Weddingworthy, where we celebrate amazing couples and the love stories behind their perfect day.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Carmen. Welcome to my house in Morocco. Entrez.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, my name is Carmen Haid. I'm a vintage curator and welcome to my house in Morocco. We're here in Marrakesh in the desert. So I love coming to Morocco because it's such a different world to the Western world, even though Morocco is one of the most modern and modernized countries in Africa, but it is a different continent and you have a complete idea of switching off, which I really like. So it's already, there's an air of possibility in Morocco that you have nowhere else, and you have a complete tranquility in this area and the property where I am, because you're completely exposed to nature. I mean, you could see today's changes. From within 5 minutes you can have a sandstorm. You see all the different colors of the spectrum of the universe here. So it's pretty spectacular. I come here for rejuvenation and for relaxation as well as for work. It's a very interesting place to work. There are a lot of opportunities here, and I like to collaborate with a lot of interesting Moroccan artists and creatives. There's a whole new generation here that's emerging, and it's super exciting. The idea of this house was I wanted to have a refuge in the desert, sort of off the grid, where nobody can find me. I'm not sure if that's possible these days, but it's pretty good because I'm very remote and I'm in the desert, but I'm close to proximity to Marrakesh Medina, which is about half an hour away. It's fantastic. So the idea was to have this house as a family retreat, and also I rent it out when I don't use it. And it's been pretty amazing. So my family really likes it. I come here with friends, I come here to work, and I built also a little studio at the back of the house, which is sort of a showroom now. And this has a bit of a Marfa kind of in the desert feel. And the house itself has been built in a U-shape. So when I acquired the house, I really liked it because there's no electricity here. So the whole house has been run as a sustainable form of living. So we use raw materials and really local materials. And also I didn't know when I first came to Morocco that Morocco is now the leading country of solar energy. And so I thought, why don't we just run this house solar only, so I don't draw electricity from the city. And so I have my own solar panels, I have my own water, and I have my own vegetables. Soon enough, I think. This is the hallway. When you come in, I'm sticking to the Moroccan tradition to have a picture of the king. Morocco has a kingdom, and this is a vintage picture of King Mohammed V, and I found it in the market. It's vintage. I think it's super cool, and so I want to stick to the tradition and pay honor to Her Majesty. So this is the living room. And it's one lateral vast space that originally was 2 rooms, and we broke it through and made it one big space. So we put all the beautiful ceiling in, and then you have 2 sections where you have the one area with the fireplace and then sort of more cozy corner. And actually here where you see the artwork, there used to be 4 windows that I closed, and now I have the artwork of my friend Idris Kanachi, who is an amazing artist, and he did these artworks here. And this is an incredible piece, which I found in the market years ago, and it's actually a real photograph. It's a negative print, and it has been treated, and I found it on the market. It was very interesting. I had it framed, and I took it to London, and then when I moved here, I brought it back here. So Marrakesh stays in Marrakesh. And I like it because it has the palm trees. And then here we see the big sofas. I love the sort of volume of it, because I was inspired when Christian Dior did a show here a few years ago. And then Soufiane Zarib, who did the amazing sofas, and then was inspired and said, I do think you can make me these sofas for my house. So he ended up doing these sofas for my house. And these are traditional, the pillows on there are traditional henna cushions, and with a sort of traditional henna stamp. So they are all really from the area here. So I try to use natural materials. So everything in the house has been made bespoke, which is fantastic because there's so much great hand craftsmanship here in Morocco. And so, for instance, the wool poofs, we produced them here. And then you have the straw mats on the floor. They're all vintage. I really like raw clay. And then here did sort of like I like the unfinished look, but it actually works quite well in the space. And I like to mix it up with the vintage pieces that I have. For instance, I have this beautiful ashtray. It's actually Hermes, and it's Leo. It's my star sign, so must be lucky. And I love also books. You know, like I have a lot of artist friends. For instance, Hassan Hassasach is an amazing Moroccan artist. He has his gallery here. And I also love, of course, Bill Willis. He's this amazing architect. They used to build Yves Saint Laurent's villas. And here I love also the traditional arts and craftsmanship of Morocco. So that's a beautiful book, actually. Here are a selection of fans, which I quite like. You know, it's nothing expensive, but it's just so pretty. These, you know, fans, especially in this hot weather, we need it. And then here in this area, which is really nice, I brought this chair actually from London, but they are antique and they're vintage. And these are all posters, Yves Saint Laurent posters from the Jardin Majorel. So Morocco, living in Morocco is really great because you have fantastic weather conditions. And so the indoor-outdoor living is quite important. So we have doors, the glass doors, and it's quite nice because you sort of like feel indoor, outdoor. Immediately from the living room, you're transported to outdoor. And so you have the view, and it's quite cinematic. So that's what I really like about it. So this is the dining room. We're going to have lunch today. And often house is also used as an artist exchange. I have sometimes artists in residence. This is Amal and Malika, our fantastic chef, and Amal, the heart of the house. And we have delicious food here that we cook. Lots of vegetarian options. There's 1,000 ways how to cook vegetables in Morocco. And that's just a small little glimpse of what we do here in the house. And I'm going to sit down now for lunch and have a little break, and see you after the lunch. So the idea of this room was it's a dining room, but you have also the built-in banquettes, which is quite nice. So before lunch or dinner, you can just hang out here, have a little aperitif, and chill out before it's time to eat. And I really like the views because you have 2 vintage saddle blankets framed. They're quite antique, quite actually kind of museum pieces. Really like the intrinsic detail of the leather and the brocade and the metallic thread that they were done. Now I want to talk to you about this little collaboration that I did with this fantastic new brand called Coup de Soleil here in Morocco. And it's a little smoking tray or a little trinket box and a tray that we did in collaboration with Coup de Soleil, made out of brass. So you have little boxes here, different sizes, and I quite like the detail here with the swirls. So throughout the house you'll find these vintage stacking tables. This one is from the 70s. It's tiled. I really like the look. It's quite retro, and then that works really well with this vintage lamp. It's a Louis Calf lamp that I had restored, and I love this enamel vase. I suppose you can put single stems of flowers in there, but I quite like to have it like this. It's quite pretty. So this is the outdoors terrace, which is kind of where we live most of the time, except in August and in July when it's extremely hot. But it's just wonderful because this house has an unprecedented view, 360 degrees view of the Atlas Mountains. I can see the sunrise, the sunset. It's a whole natural spectacle here. And I've seen eclipses. It's just wonderful. And I just love to wake up and have the feeling to be in the middle of the nature, which we are. So naturally this space, it was built as a U form, as a U-shaped property, and in this sort of courtyard that you see here is the beautiful table, but it's actually, these are two vintage doors that are made into a table, and you can seat quite a large number of people. It's sort of the centerpiece for entertainment during the day and the evening. We can set it up really nicely. So this is a wonderful piece by my dear friend Laurence. She has this fantastic brand LRNCE. She makes incredible ceramics, beautiful furniture, and also clothes. And that was a house gift from her. And I tend to fill it with the olive branches from the grounds. And so, as I said, this table, wood is a living material, so sometimes it shrinks, sometimes it expands, so we've got to keep an eye on it, but it's usually, we did it on this big iron stands, and it normally works quite well for a big party here. So there have been quite some terrace parties here. Sometimes I have a DJ who comes here on outdoors. So I started my career in the 90s working alongside Mr. Salon, and I was a PR assistant. I was quite young back then. It was really exciting. I was living and breathing fashion. I was always based in London. I was in Paris a lot. And of course, he was a big inspiration when I came to Morocco, which was back in the day as well. It was even before I was working for Salon. I was working as a model. And I came here originally for a shoot. So I came here to Marrakesh for a photo shoot, and with a photographer called Sammy Hart, who is still an amazing photographer today in Germany, and he does a lot of incredible work. So I came here with Sammy, and I thought, what is this place? It's just like, it's bonkers. It's kind of like, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, we don't have this in Europe, and India is very far away. It's like, well, maybe one day, if I have the opportunity, I'd like to come here and explore this further. And then I started to work for Monsieur Salon, and then he, of course, he had a house here, several places, and that was a really big inspiration for me to come here and explore the territory further. And I've been coming here for about 30 years now, on and off. So follow me to the pool. I just redid the pool in this very nice, smooth kind of, I think it's called Dynabrite material that's really lovely to stand on. And during the day, this actually is also a perfect spot for home office, believe it or not. So I have this little island that I kept. It's a bit 80s, but I like to sit here with my laptop and have a glass of water and just really enjoy the view and the scenery while I'm doing work. And here around the pools we have fragrant plants. So we have geraniums, we have lavender, we have mint, and we have lemon verbena. So these are all natural herbs that they're very common here in Morocco, and the verbena tea, terre is fantastic. It's also called Louisa in Morocco. So here we have the graminées, which is the lovely grass that grows really fast here. We cut it usually in the month of January. It's cut really down, and look, it's already, I mean, it grows within 3 months. It grows really fast, but it's so beautiful. And when you have the wind, it just you have the melody of the wind and the grass, and I really like it. The contrast, the soft to the desert, and it's just magnificent. All the colors here. Morocco is very inspiring for not just its heritage, but also for the colors. So anybody who's really into photography in the arts and creative world will really like it here. I love most about my home in Morocco is being exposed to nature. It's such a luxury to be in the middle of the desert, to living in such luxury, where I have my duvet and the sandstorm is outside. It's a pretty amazing feeling. I also really love to be exposed to the elements, because the sandstorm, as I said, can come up in 5 minutes. I have every scenario under my eyes in front of my terrace. When we live in cities, we're pretty much disconnected from nature. And what this allows me to come here in this home is to really be immersed in nature, and it makes it all relevant what's really important. Well, let's follow me to the office. This is a super fun vintage film poster that I found here in Marrakesh as well. It's a Vigilante, a film by Stanley Donen. And then actually here, when you go to the office, I have this amazing vintage door that I repainted. And voila, so here you can see my workspace. I love this place because it gives me a lot of creativity and inspiration. This is a wonderful desk I found. It's vintage. It's a vintage airport desk from Kenya, actually, from the 20s. Love it. And on it, there are some little objects. This is a beautiful ceramic lidded box by Laura Boeing. She's a friend of mine. She's actually quite collectible. She does a lot of amazing furniture now. I have also this beautiful Art Deco vase that I had from England, and this trolley. It's a modernist trolley from the 50s, and this beautiful sort of concave mirror. I also love in particular these little trinkets, which is a smoking set by Hermès. It's vintage, it's from the 1940s. I also love here my little boxes and vases. So this is again Laura Boeing, who made the other lidded box. And also, for instance, this light here is really beautiful with this three colorway, which is red, black, and white, and it just makes it a really good juxtaposition. So you see the red, black, and white on the bowl here, and you can see the graphic lines here in this office. Now, Yves Saint Laurent was a big inspiration, of course, because when I used to work with him back in the day. So you see a portrait of him here, and then there's also a portrait of Paco Rabanne back in the day. There's also a portrait of Catherine Deneuve painted by David Downton, a fantastic British illustrator. When Monsieur Saint Laurent decided to auction off his house in Rue Babylone, this chair was for sale. And it was quite incredible. I had this most astronomical sum that he went for, but I tried a bit and I wasn't successful. But so my friend in England, Evandro, who has a wonderful upholstery business, said, "Oh, why don't I make this chair for you?" And I had this incredible vintage real leopard fur coat, which I couldn't sell. I don't have a certificate, so I said, okay, let's make a chair. So we actually made this chair, and it's a total identical replica of the original Saint Laurent chair. And funnily enough, if you can see, it's in the auction catalogue. I can show you. Here you can see the chair, and it's really beautiful. It's actually perfect. Voila. So this is the living room, first floor salon. It's been inspired by Pierre Cardin, the Palais Boulle in south of France, and I just love the idea of space age. I really love the bubble and the shapes and the silhouette and the form of that time. And there were actually, in this room, there were windows that I closed up and I built this fireplace instead. And I love built-in seating because it kind of leads itself to have great friends and parties and entertainment in the house. And this is a wonderful space because I was not quite sure how we should light the room. So we have, of course, a dome, which is lovely because we have the suspension lamp that it's a vintage that has been modified to fit this space. And then I actually designed the little light features on the side, which are perforated ostrich eggs. You can find them here, but of course we did the design. And then I worked with a really lovely brass atelier here because the brass and hand craftsmanship is really incredible here in Morocco. And designed those little appliques, the wall appliques for the room. And then to follow the shape of the banquettes, I thought it was quite nice to work with natural material. Again, I talked about Tadelac before, and here you have a whole room covered in Tadelac, which is the limestone. And I like this terracotta idea because Marrakesh is the city, the red city. It is surrounded by the red wall, and also I quite like to blend in here in the desert. And so that's why we kept the color tones quite neutral in this space and use natural materials like limestone, like wool. And the pillows, they all have been handmade, like hand crochet, hand wool made. Now for the coffee table, I went to the flea market and I found this incredible iron structure. And it's like, oh, it would be actually really perfect to make it into a coffee table. So just put a big sort of glass on top and voila, here we go. You see also another lidded box from a ceramic box from Lara Boeing, that similar to what we had in the office before. And this massive space age ashtray that's basically not in use, but I think it looks really lovely for decoration. And it works quite well because this it's an indoor-outdoor situation. So you have the living room, the salon that leads straight into the terrace outside, which I use for yoga, which is perfect hangout during hot summer days. So let's go and have a look. So this is the outdoor terrace, which I love to use all year round. I do yoga here. It has a magnificent view. You see the Atlas Mountains, again, 360-degree views. And it's just really pleasant to hang out because it's a shaded area. And I love the idea of the long curtains that you can, sort of have them hang down. And again, we have the big sofas like downstairs in the living room. They're sort of spacious and really comfortable. And I found these incredible céliger pots here in Marrakesh. It's quite unusual to find céliger pots structured like this. It's quite a lot of work. Céliger is then again another traditional hand craftsmanship here in Morocco, which is this tiled inlay. And I tried actually to reproduce these pots and it hasn't been easy to find in atelier, so I'm still on the search, but these are vintage ones and I really love the look of them. Let's go upstairs to the first floor. Welcome to the red room. In this room, I wanted to have actually every room to have something special. So I built in this little corner that wasn't here before. And I inherited these terrible brown wooden doors that I didn't know quite what to do with it. And then I found this incredible painter who did restorations for the Islamic Museum of Art. And I sort of gave him free rein. I said, can you keep it to the color red? And that's what he came up with. And I said he did a brilliant job. I love all the hand painting and the craftsmanship in this room. So you can see all the detail, everything is hand painted, so beautiful, all the color. And then I had this incredible Sultani piece, which was a Turkish vintage piece I had in my cupboards for years, and I didn't quite know what to do, and I thought, oh, it may look good as a headboard. So here we go, we made it into a headboard. And then I liked the attention to detail because, for instance, here, then the bed sheets, we all make everything here in Morocco. You know, have the beautiful little embroidery lining and all the little details here, and the pom-poms. So everything has been handmade. You can see also here, for instance, this, funnily enough, I found this bookshelf in a flea market here, and I thought, oh, it's perfect. It works really well in the space. And then I have it houses now my vintage collection of Karl May books, which is really old. I think it's from the 50s. So actually the hand craftsmanship continues in this bathroom, which is really lovely because you have all the details. And here I have fossiled sinks, which means there's, you know, Morocco, or this part where we are desert, used to be sea. So you find a lot of fossils here and a lot of amazing stones. So I decided to keep these sinks in fossiled marble. And as I said, these inherited doors, they immediately get new life when you paint them and with these beautiful patterns. So voila. But let's go to the suite africain, which is the African suite. And so it's been inspired by actually this piece, which is a vintage map of Africa that I found here in a store, and it's quite incredible because you actually can see the formation of Africa really back in the day. And it sort of inspired the color palette of this room. It's like, okay, well, if it's the suite African, so we need to do African patterns. And so I came up with the color palette, which was actually inspired by these plates on the wall, these basket plates. And then so we came up with this pattern, and then I found this headboard on the bed that sort of matched the whole idea. And it's also really fun, these lamps, this bedside lamps. I found actually the actual lamp, which is ceramic, and the shade afterwards. And so it was actually a vase, and it's like, oh, let's just make lampshades out of it. And so that's the bedside table. It took me a few years to find the right fabric for this beautiful blackout blind, but it works really well in the space now with everything together. And so these are actually old vintage chairs from a chalet in Austria. In here we have vintage rugs that I found in the Berber Mountains. And I also found this here, which is a desert rose. We have a lot of rock formations here in Morocco and in the desert, which is incredible. You have to come and visit. You find these incredible formations. They're out of stone, and they are formed, it's called a desert rose, and you can find them. So I found them here in Morocco. So here, let's go into the bathroom. You have an ensuite bathroom also in the African suite here. Same principle as in the Chambre Rouge. We had these doors that they had to be repainted or exchanged. So I always prefer to use the existing, and I prefer to recycle materials and give them a new life. And again, we work with the same art restorer who does restorations for the Islamic Museum of Art here in Marrakesh. And we kept the original idea of the fossiled marble sinks, which I think works quite well in the space here, together with the painting and the hand craftsmanship. The room has been done in Tadelact. Tadelact is a traditional craftsmanship in Morocco, and it's a very smooth sort of limestone texture that you put on, and it's very nice in bathrooms, on the floors. And so we did the bathrooms in the Tadelact, as well as downstairs in the dining room area. You'll see all the rooms in Tadelact. So this is the yellow room, and it has the mirror image of the Chambre Rouge. I wanted to have something special, so I have this little alcove here that we made. And for the same principle here, I inherited these boring wooden doors, and I wanted to have something different to the red room and to the African suite. So I just thought, why don't I give the painter a pattern of the Wiener Werkstatt, and he can interpret himself how it would look like maybe Moroccan style. So and that's what he came up with. I thought it's absolutely wonderful, really on point. And he did beautiful patterns that I didn't need to change anything. So I'm very happy about it. And then I teamed it up with traditional techniques here in Morocco. We have also a lot of embroidery. So all of this has been handmade. All of the embroidered sofas, the pillows, and actually what this African chair has a pillow, a vintage pillow of Salon from the 60s. This orange metal cabinet I found here on the flea market, and I just thought it was perfect. It would work in the room. It's a bit of a worn down look, but I quite like it. So this is a funny little mascot, which is a dog by Erdem, that is who is a fantastic fashion designer in England. And he did this a few years ago. He did a collection in this fabric and he made me a little dog. So voila, he's here. And here we have a vintage 1970s Murano glass vase that I like very much. And also those Mexican tiger heads that are really beautiful. They're from the 60s. I found them also in the market. And I have this fantastic artwork, which is done by Nick Hornby, who is another friend of mine in London, who is now a fantastic renowned sculptor and who does public commissions all over the country. For the headboard, I had no idea at the beginning what to put here, and I came from England with this vintage paravent, this screen that I didn't quite know what to do. It's from the 20s. And I just plonked it there, and it actually looks quite good, and it stayed there ever since. And I teamed it up with these sort of vintage lights, again glass lights from the 60s, which look quite chic, and it works in the room, together with macrame and natural materials. It's a really lovely space again. So here we continue in the bathroom, the beautiful craftsmanship, Atelier Meyer, Wiener Werkstatt meets Morocco, and with the fossil sinks as well. And I love all the big products here from Botanica, who is a fantastic Moroccan brand I've done a collaboration with, and they are the best natural oils and materials. So I have them in all of the bathrooms, and they really look pretty as well. And then I have also behind the corner a beautiful poster, vintage airline poster from Air France. That's quite fun. I just thought, why not put it in the bathroom? So in 2007, I decided to launch Atelier Meyer, which was named after my late grandmother and inspired by the Wiener Werkstatt and the Viennese workshops, to launch an online business selling vintage luxury fashion and accessories online. So back then, basically nobody was doing this in Europe, and it was a really exciting opportunity. And we were really growing quite fast. Within 5 years, we were selling to about 104 countries. I had a warehouse in London Bridge. I had concession in department stores, and I did trunk shows all over the world. And it was really an exciting time. So then, after about 5 years in Haven, in Creative Haven, I decided to sell the business and concentrate on other ventures. And then COVID happened and family affairs happened, and I had to move from the UK. And I decided last year to relaunch the business, Atelier Meyer, in the form, again, of an online boutique, but actually as a physical studio here in Marrakesh, selling vintage furniture and vintage objects. And it actually really gives me a lot of pleasure, because I still have this affiliation and I still have this passion for finding vintage things and giving them a new life. As you can see, with a lot of pieces in this house that have been either found on a flea market or they have a history, and I quite like it to make it a personal affair. So this is the atelier that I built last year. It's sort of a bit of a folly to have a store in the middle of the desert, but I quite like it because it's a bit of a Marfa feel. And when people come, they're actually really surprised what to find here, because everything in here is for sale. These are vintage finds that I've collected here in stores, vintage dealers, at the flea market. Voila, let's have a look. So, as you can see, this is sort of like a bungalow style, which we use as a showroom, but also is an artist in residence atelier. So often we have artists in residence that come here and do the work. For instance, right now we're working on this very exciting project. So I have artist Marco Walker, who is American, half Austrian, and lives in England as well. He's actually taking space here right now to finish his work for this project. And here I can show you all the little pieces that we have curated. So for instance, this is an extraordinary piece, which is a knoll frame from the 60s that I've upholstered in this cream boucle fabric. Similar to this chair, it's an original Mark held chair that I found here on the market, and I did the same thing. It's been upholstered absolutely new. This is my scent that I've just collaborated with Botanica and the Mandarin Oriental. It's now our signature scent. It's inspired by Chamna Lefna, which is the big place here in Marrakesh. Now here, this is a collaboration I did with Benny Rugs, an amazing rug company here based in Morocco, actually very close to my house. They have an extraordinary showroom, and I did a collaboration with them for 6 carpets. And here, all of these, for instance, these chairs, these are fiberglass chairs, outdoors, but they also look pretty. And then I find these structures on the flea market, and I think they're quite interesting. Little side tables that I spray paint, painfully restore, and then they are for sale. This is a really beautiful lamp from the 1950s. And even here, you know, I like the art of entertaining. This is a little set, original set. It's still in its original packaging by Pierre Cardin, a little play card set. I also like to celebrate the art of the table. So here you have a little bit of silver, quite like this one. It's old school, where you can really brush the breadcrumbs off the table. And that's an original vase from the Wiener Werkstatt. It's quite rare, and you can see here the intrinsic pattern of all the details, and you have here made in Austria. Very nice. I really love this bowl as well, for instance. It has this beautiful silhouette. Looks quite pretty on any mantelpiece. You can fill it with fruit. So pretty. Now this shelf actually is really lovely. I found it on the road, believe it or not. It's not for sale. I love the shape, and I put some bowls on the top. These are ceramic vases that I really like, because they're lit from inside to give a beautiful light. I have them in all shapes and sizes, and we make things also to specification. So a lot of things that you see in the house inside has been made with the ateliers, and I continue to work with ateliers on bespoke interior and projects all around the world. Home means to me a complete refuge from daily life, but also a place where you can recharge, where you can be yourself, where you can invite friends, where you can hang out, where you can work from. That's basically what home means for me.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Scott, and welcome to my house in Phoenix, Arizona.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Scott Burdick, and I am an interior design professional in Phoenix, Arizona. I actually did not know that I was going to be in the interior design business. It is oddly a family business that I didn't realize was in my family. I grew up in Arizona, and my mom was an interior designer in the business that I now co-own. So she started working at Wiseman & Gale, is the name of the firm, when I was in high school, and grew up through the business. And we bought the business together along with 2 other partners in the early 2000s. I moved back from Europe, where I was working in management consulting, and had a major career shift and started working in design. So I grew up in Arizona, not very far from here, in a historic adobe. This also is a historic adobe. This one is older. It's originally dated 1926, and it was the architect of record is an architect named H.H. Green, who did a lot of really cool adobes during that period of time. In that day, this was way out in the middle of nowhere, and there was an arroyo that kind of runs along the side of the property that comes down from Paestra Peak. The name of the house is Rancho Arroyo. There's a couple other cool names to the house. It's called Lucille's Blessing is a nickname for the house, and also God's Acre. At one point it was a 20-acre ranchero, and over the years, the property was sold off and they gated in 1 acre, and the city of Phoenix has kind of grown up around it. So we're now in central Phoenix in this acre of property. So. Welcome into my living room. There's 2 houses on this property. Each house is a 1-bedroom house. This is the living room and main space of the main house. And in here is where I spend most of my time, and I would welcome you in and let me show you a few cool things. I would start probably by showing you this painting hanging here. I have 2 paintings in this room that are by an artist named Bill Tull. And Bill Tull is big influence in my career and in my aesthetic. He was an adobe home builder and architect, and painted mostly as a hobby, and he would leave a painting with every house he did. I'm still friends with the family, and I've purchased 2 paintings from the family. This one depicts cottonwoods, and it is called My Life Will Be Good, and it's my birth year, 1965. And it was given to me by the family. It's a very important piece to me. Above it is some Scottish antlers. I'm definitely not a hunter. These are antique antlers that I purchased in London from a dealer when I lived in London years ago. And the weather vane arrow is something that is from my mom. And then up here is a painting by an artist that paints in Venice, California. That piece is aluminum and oil mosaicked together, and the artist's name is Charles Arnaldi. It was given to me by a dear friend and also a wonderful designer here in Arizona named Jim Harris, who passed away just recently. So I treasure that. The seating area is these 3 pieces have spent a lot of time together over the years, and they've been recovered many times. The sofa is a Edward Wormley sofa for Dunbar. It's vintage, and the chairs are vintage Dongia, and they're covered in a corduroy from a London company called Howe, and incredibly comfortable, incredibly durable, and sort of blend into everything. The piece that I use as a coffee table is a Korean grain chest. And then this is kind of, I like to keep it pretty simple, because this is a Delft piece that I have owned for a while. It's way more interesting on the back, where you really see the age of it and all the mends that it's survived and been mended back together for probably 250 years, I think is kind of cool. Over here is a early Italian antique that I bought from a North Carolina favorite vendor and friend named Randall Tysinger, and it holds a lot of my favorite things. I would point this out to you. This is kind of tucked up here. This is called a saguaro boot, and it's just an organic object. Birds make nests in saguaros, and this is the scar that the saguaro makes to protect itself that kind of surround a nest. And people from Arizona typically know what a boot is, but if you're not from Arizona, you probably wouldn't. So that's that up here. The basket is a Japanese woven basket. The foot is my mom's, and it is a remnant of a Santo. And the pair of small paintings are by a Jerome artist named Damien Gomes. And And then these are kind of cool. These cubes are resin, and they're created by an Arizona artist named Mamie Kratz. And Mamie does all sorts of incredibly wonderful organic Arizona pieces, usually using resin. And then this is kind of cool too. I love this. I bought this from Joel Chen a few years ago in Los Angeles. It's just a rock, and it's antique Chinese, and it was a stamp press rock, and it just sits right there next to that Chinese vase. The chairs these are one of the first antiques I ever bought. I have 4 of them, and they are from a French manufacturer named Charles Dudouat, and I'm going to pronounce that name wrong, sorry. But I love them. They're incredibly uncomfortable, and they give a little bit of a contemporary edge to what is otherwise usually a pretty traditional style that I have. The dining room and the living room are separated by a beam. So again, we're talking 1926. My English friends giggle that is not very old, but it's really old for Arizona. And I think that Arizona was a state in 1912, and so it was just after Arizona became a state. It has a bunch of Hopi and Native American drawings on it that we're not exactly sure when they were done, but we're thinking probably somewhere along the way in the 40s or 50s that was added. And then on this wall is just a weird collection of things I love. It's another Bill Tull painting. As he got older, he moved into abstraction, and they're abstractions of usually adobe houses. This one's dated 1990 and was from his daughter, Jennifer, that I got that. The African piece up there it's a Sanufo buffalo head, and it is from an old family friend of ours, Ira Levy, and who's no longer with us. And it is, I always feel like it's a nice way to remember people is collecting pieces from their collections and mixing them together and creating something that's your own. This little piece is from an Arizona artist named Ruth Waddell, and it is a landscape of the petrified forest in northern Arizona. Ruth and her husband John were sort of Arizona treasure artists, and John Waddell is best known for his bronzes of dancing figures. You see him in a lot of public art around the city. The mask is a copper, it's a bat mask, and it's Mexican, and they use them in sort of indigenous Mexican ceremonies and dances. I have a pair of these crazy benches that I bought from a dealer on Pimlico Road in London maybe 30 years ago that have been everything from sort of little benches to coffee tables, and right now it's just covering a really ugly electrical outlet. And then in the dining room, the table it's a mid-century French industrial table. It's pear wood. It actually raises, and it could be like a counter height if you wanted it to be. I bought it in San Francisco from March, which is a wonderful store in San Francisco. And the benches and the chair are upholstered in a bergamot fabric that's no longer around. This was a fabric that was big maybe 15 years ago, and we used it a lot. And the bench design was actually an antique that we had bought, and I blew up the antique's actually in one of my old business partners' houses, and we blew up the antique, and it's part of Wiseman and Gill's furniture line. The chair is Michael Taylor. And then on the table, I would point out, this is a real treasure. We call him my llama, but he's probably an alpaca, and it's by an artist named Dane Burr. And Dane was big in the 70s and 80s, and he did terracotta sort of farm animals and zoo animals and things like that, and he was based in Asheville, North Carolina. The egg here is a piece of quartz with really big inclusions in it, and then it was molded into the shape of an egg. And that was something I got from Holler and Saunders, based in Nogales, Arizona. They have beautiful things like that. I would be in big trouble if I didn't point this guy out. This is a bronze piece that was done by my second mother and a dear friend named Patsy Lowry. Her art name is Skyline, and she's very influenced by the Hopi culture, and it's a church that has people in it, and I use it as sort of sits on top of books, weights them down. Another thing I like to collect are French battery acid containers. That's what these are. And then the mirror is by Mike Diaz, who is based in Mexico City, and is something that Mike Diaz is a incredibly talented furniture maker and artist, and our company represents him in Scottsdale. The chandelier is a Noguchi vintage chandelier. It replaced, there was a really, really old and not very attractive rusty chandelier here that was probably original, and I replaced it with this. I probably broke some design rules by doing that, but I like this better. Welcome to the kitchen. This is a tiny house, tiny kitchen. It's a small galley kitchen. As we come into this, there is a tuning bell. Some people think it's a tuning bell, some people think it's a crutch, but it's a bronze, very vertical piece that is by an artist named Mary Bates Neubauer, who is a professor at ASU, and she does wonderful bronze pieces. I like the unexpected spot that it is. It's hung, and you can see it from all different rooms, and it's a bit of a surprise. So here on my kitchen counter, this pair of ceramics are from John Wigmore. It's a Los Angeles-based ceramic artist. This one's an antique Japanese, and then the painting, which I love the little choreography of this, is by Sam Scott. Sam Scott is an amazing New Mexico-based artist that does big abstractions of gardens, and I feel like this is probably a fragment, but it was a small piece that I fell in love with and I've had for a long time. Mixes with everything. Over here, we probably should point out, this is a pair of antique English decoupage birds. So almost like kind of grade school crafts, where it is craft paper and trees, and then the birds are decoupaged into the trees. And this is another thing that I bought from Randall Tysinger many years ago in North Carolina. This is a Mexican tin silver box that is kind of my junk drawer. You can see I have some Kovitas in there. Some glassware by Japanese artists that I love. And then this is a favorite piece that's just a found object. It was given to me by my friend Todd Nickey. We don't really know what it is or where it's from. He got it from a flea market in Los Angeles, and he gave it to me for my 50th birthday. It's kind of an appropriate 50th birthday party because we think it is a cockfighting trophy. And on the back here it says Viagra Senior Center, LA, California, and curated by somebody. The coin in here is a Hawaiian King Kamehameha coin, and then it has this hood that lifts up that I'm not going to lift up because we'll lose our rated PG, a rated G, because it's a little graphic. And then this leads us out to my little kitchen patio. Out here on this patio is mostly for pots, and it's a transition out into the garden. This is a bell that is from Paulo Soleri, and we love the sound of it. It's a very Arizona thing, and most people that have been in Arizona for a long time have at least one Paulo Soleri bell. They're bronze bells that I've got them kind of scattered around the property. And then my plants, I love my plants. We've got a couple of Cantera pieces here that are Mexican. These are something I collect. They're called Mieleria jars or honey pots, and they're terracotta, and they were made in the early 20th century for making honey, like the industrial making of honey in Mexico. And then the bench is just a super sturdy, primitive bench that can handle all this weight. And my red Crocs are when I'm working in the garden. For me, when I first came to this house, I was with my realtor and we were very much looky-looing it. We thought we were coming to see a falling down adobe that had a lot of history to it. And as the other realtor was punching in the code to the gate and the gate was opening, he said, this home was renovated in 2012 by John Douglas, who is an architect I'm very aware of, and Greg Hunt, who is our favorite builder construction guy in town. And so suddenly I was seeing a historic adobe that had been lovingly renovated, and my whole view of the house completely changed. The woman that had lived here before had passed away, and it was in some disrepair, but I knew that the bones were good, and I knew that I could see myself living here. So quickly take you through the powder room. This powder room is probably, I would call it pre-renovation, but there's some fun things in here. I collect oil paintings, and around here over the toilet is a collection of Spanish artists. It's 19th century oil paintings, and they all have these crazy noses. So it kind of gives you something interesting to look at when you're in the powder room and maybe get a giggle. As we exit the powder room, I want to point out in some of these little adobes, having good mirrors is important. And this one is placed on the wall outside of the powder room in a small hallway, and it reflects the light of the powder room and it kind of opens up the space. And throughout the house, there's some great floor-to-ceiling mirrors that reflect light and make the rooms feel bigger. So again, this house has, it's two one-bedroom houses, and so this is the sort of the bedroom in the main house. In here is a queen-size bed made out of a CNC Milano orange fabric. I'd actually made this to float in a different house. It happily worked great in this room. I actually don't mind a bed that floats in a room. I know a lot of people want to be grounded against a wall. And even sometimes facing in a certain direction. Doesn't bother me at all. My one bedside stand where I put my glasses and my television clicker and water this is actually one of the first things I ever owned, and it's a Native American smoking stand that I bought many years ago from a dealer in New York City called America Hurrah. And it's definitely one of my treasures. I love it. It has a little door that opens up on the front. And then over this way is a small desk that I don't use as a desk. Again, it's displaying objects and things that I like. The desk is an antique Mexican pine, Sabino pine desk, something that I inherited from my mother. This is a favorite object as well. This is a small statue. It's paper mache. I bought this in Los Angeles from Ray Azulay from Obsolete, and the artist's name is Agnes Bayonne. It's just a small sculpture of a boy in a hoodie. And then back up here is a couple of older paintings that I've had for a long time that seem to live together well. The small pen and ink drawing is a picture of an Indian sitting on a mesa cliff looking out, and that was a gift from an art dealer friend of mine named John Reyes, and it is a Borin piece. And then the horse and rider is an oil from a Santa Fe artist named Louis Reback. And then over here, this Swedish piece is tucked into this corner, has an oil paint or a watercolor of a couple of Arizona birds that my grandmother did, Joe Yoba. And she was, I have a a love of the desert and love of rocks and plants that is definitely something that I inherited from my grandmother, Joyoba. And then if you come around this way, this is a painting that I purchased from, so our founder of our company, Ann Gale, passed away last year, and I bought this from her family. It's a Serbian 19th century oil painting of a family, and again, it's all about the surprise, and that there would be all these figures staring at you at night while you're sleeping doesn't bother me at all, but it might freak other people out. In the afternoon, it lights up with sunlight, and you really find these beautiful details in this painting, and I love thinking about all of the different characters and who they were, and which ones are brothers and sisters, which ones are married to each other, and what the story was there. So that's basically it. And this is a chest of drawers. That is a Spanish chest of drawers with a Chinese lamp, and this is a little piece from another Arizona artist named Nessa Gale, and an old hat box that holds or not a hat box, it's a wig box. That holds all my belts and cufflinks and things like that. So from here we can go into the primary bathroom, and in here is a tub that I have never been in, and a relatively small bathroom. It gets more interesting as you come down this way. There is a stacking Japanese tansu that I use for storing my towels and things like that. There's a wonderful John Waddell painting on this wall that I love looking at. These are kind of fun. This is an Arizona artist named Dick Seeger, and I have a collection of these, and they were gifted to me by Ann Gale, the founder of our company, over maybe a 10-year period, and I seemed to get one every year. She knew I loved them, and makes it way easier to buy me a gift knowing what she's going to get me every year. And eventually she ran out of them, and so I've got the full collection now. The piece over behind them is an antique church sign that I found from a dealer. And I actually Googled the church. It says up here, it says Community Temple House Church of something something. And it has the various times and days of the events happening in the church, which I think is kind of fun. This is an African piece that there is a wonderful African dealer in Arizona named Sissoko, and he's a longtime vendor and client of ours, and he actually donated this piece to our Desert Botanical Garden for an auction, and then I bought it out of the auction. An incredibly generous family, and most of my African pieces, which I love, have come from Sissoko over the years. So over this, the tub is, we call him Uncle John, and there was an interesting memory when I look at him. I was at an estate sale from kind of a wild hoarder's house, and the lady that was leading the estate sale, when I pulled that out, she's like, "Oh, that's my Uncle John," and she told me that I could have him for free if I promised never to sell him. And so Uncle John is right there. So off of the master bedroom, welcome into my dressing room. In here is my sickness of collecting colognes that are tucked on a tray, an Old English wood tray, and an antique dog painting. I also collect small boxes. These are pill boxes, and we spend a lot of time at market buying antiques for clients, and when I tend to try and buy one every time I am in that situation. I display all of my bolo ties up here, and This idea I actually stole from my friend Todd Nickey from his dressing room. He had all of his jeans lined up on a wall, and I said, I got to do that. I love not having to fish and dig for which pair of jeans I'm going to wear, which is basically my daily uniform. So this house is cool, but maybe cooler are the gardens. It's a 1 acre property. It was originally a 20 acre property in 1926, and it's right in the middle of central Phoenix, and you really feel buried in the desert here. It was originally owned by a guy named Hubert Earl, and Hubert Earl was a famous botanist, and he was the head of the botanical garden for a long time. He put some crazy plants on this property that are worth showing you. So come on out to the garden. There are so many things that inspire me as we walk around and look at the things in my house. Every object is a trip down memory lane, and certainly in my work I am surrounded by good design all the time, and I am presented with a lot of options, and my house very much changes, and I bring things from work that I love, and then I get tired of them, and I take them back, or a client sees them and I end up selling them. That is with some of the things in my house. A lot of the things in my house I have deep personal connections to, and I couldn't possibly let go of. But my big inspirations, gosh, my friend Todd Nickey, who is one of my lifelong friends, is an interior designer in Los Angeles. My mom, Patty Burdick, certainly has been a huge influence on my aesthetic. Ann Gale, who's the founder of our company, 100% influenced me, and I have a lot of her heirlooms around the house. There's an Adobe home builder that was really prolific in the 80s, 90s in Phoenix named Bill Tull. I have a few of his paintings. He was a big influence in my young life in terms of what my personal aesthetic is. So where we are right now is the small covered patio that's off my front door. And this is an amazing spot to have breakfast. Again, I have a weird collection of pots that are antiques. Some are contemporary Belgium. There's a wonderful company called Atelier Vierkant, and I mix those in with Mexican antiques and European antiques. But this is where I will eat breakfast if the weather is nice. So we're in the garden right now, and it's a little rare that you would have a property that has so many mature plants on it outside of our desert botanical garden. And I'm going to show you some cool ones. I think there's 21 armed saguaros on this property, as well as a whole bunch of other interesting specimen plants. You can see where there's a bird's nest, and I think a bird just left. They're leaving their nests as we're disturbing them. We're sort of taking a little path down towards a small stream, and I'm just pointing out some of the cool cactus. This is a totem that's super mature. I'm guessing it's 50 years old. Again, many of the really important plants that were put here were during a period of time when Hubert Earl and his wife Lucy lived on the property. And then as you walk a little further this way, there's an amazing saguaro cactus that's again growing up through an ironwood tree that has an owl's nest in it. And the owl's nest is kind of near my bedroom window, and it's a very cool sound to hear this hooting owl every once in a while. So moving through the garden, there's a shade structure here that is really old, and my understanding is that it was a wedding gift from Hubert to his wife Lucy, and he asked her what she wanted for her wedding, and she says, I have everything I could possibly want, and so he built her this shade structure. In The shade cover on it is actually ocotillo spines that are tied together to create the shade structure, and it leads you down to a newer piece of the garden that was added by the previous owner before me. Her name was Virginia Cave, and Virginia created a stream that runs through about half the property. She was an amazing gardener, and the stream brings wildlife and flowers and life to the desert here. There, you'll see all sorts of grasses and green things. You know, I've lived here 3.5 years, and I have yet to put a flower or plant in this area. It completely takes care of itself and propagates itself. These are called palo blancos, and palo blancos are a variety of desert tree that get these paper-like bark pieces and a dappled shade, and there's maybe 20 of them that run here between the main house and the casita. I'm gonna walk into the casita now. In 2012, John Douglas and Greg Hunt did a historic renovation and added square footage to the house. And keeping in line with historic renovations, they did anything that is new is 2012 is stacked adobe brick, and anything that's old that's historically protected is the smooth adobe. At the front here, there's a covered patio space that is a potting shed that I hardly sit there, but it's a good place to protect my cactuses, and it is kind of fun. When I have a lot of big parties here in Christmas, etc., it's where we put the bar, and so it forces everybody to go into the potting shed. My favorite thing about this house is it's completely different than anybody else's, and it is a big surprise to people as they experience it. It is not what you think exists in Central Phoenix, and the other thing is the story of this house is about a historic adobe, but it's also very much about the garden and the Sonoran Desert. And the house is buried in really beautiful Sonoran Desert, which is also on the National Historic Register. So it's a rare thing to have a house on the register, but also the Sonoran Desert and landscaping are listed on the Historic Register as well. So the second house on this property is an 800 square foot casita. It's a 1-bedroom casita. And this is the bedroom of that. This is the addition part. The ceilings are taller here. I think we've probably got, I don't know, 8 or 9 foot ceilings here. It gets very low here as we move into the old part. There's a small kitchen and then a very charming living room that has a wonderful old fireplace and small closet, small bathroom, but I use this. I lived out here briefly, and nowadays my friends have caught on, and they are booking it when the weather's nice and are staying here. And it's wonderful having guests stay with you where they're not really in your house. They get to come and go as they please and not feel like they're interrupting your routine, and so they now come for 2 weeks or a month, and it's fantastic. The painting over between the lamps is a find that I've maybe had for a few years, but it's by an artist named Richard Toomsuden, who was a Brooklyn abstract expressionist artist, and it's definitely gives a really bold statement that you can see from far away. A couple other cool things in here. There are some antique sawfish saws that I've hung on the wall here. There's a great old cow mask that is offset onto the fireplace over here. And then the cabinet here that hides the TV is a special piece. This is probably way too important and antique to have in a guest house, but it works so well in here. But it hides the TV, and we call him Caesar, and Caesar is also a Mexican dancing mask. It's a body mask, and it would have fit over the body. If you take this down, it's hollow in the center, and kids would have worn this around their waist during dancing ceremonies in Mexican indigenous cultures. This was the chandelier. It was wired as a chandelier in the adobe that I grew up in. And so it is a family heirloom that I love. This little grouping is something that I purchased just recently. We were installing an amazing house in Jackson, Wyoming, and we pulled these from a shop up there, thinking that they were going to go into the house up there, and it didn't work there, and I knew exactly where they were going to go when they didn't work. Another example of having an antique mirror strategically placed dramatically opens up this very small space and reflects light, reflects furniture, and makes a big impact in this small space. So leaving the kitchen, there's this kind of transition space, a little vestibule that we have an antique French clock in here. This is a clock that was in my living room growing up. It's my mom's. My mom and dad live in a much smaller place now, and all of the kids are inheriting some really great stuff. So I managed to sneak this one by my brother and sister, and it's here now. And then if you go this way, this enters into my game room. This room was originally the master bedroom of the house, and it is, for me, my ping pong room. I'm a little obsessed with ping pong. And so that's here. I think that the most interesting thing in here is probably this painting on the wall on this side. This is a Mexican painting that depicts the Revolutionary War. And when I bought this from Holler and Saunders in Nogales, it was practically free because it had a huge cut that was through the middle of it. It was in really bad shape. And little did he know that I was deep down a YouTube rabbit hole called Baumgartner Restorations, where they do YouTube stories about restoring paintings. So I sent this to him in Chicago, and it came back looking like this, totally back together and reinforced, and now you can love it. It's called Forced Perspective because the horses are so in the foreground, and then there's all sorts of action and things to look at in the details. This over here is an antique English piece that's hung on the wall. Again, something from my family. It stores my antique train set that every once in a while I'll break this out and put it together, and it'll be usually going around my dining room, sometimes around my ping pong table, but I think it's fun to put together every once in a while and work into a design, and makes a cool sound. But it's a train set from the 40s. And then if you head this way out of this room, there's another little transition. Here I have hung a Garo Antresian piece. He was a New Mexican artist that was a printmaker, and that is something I've always loved his work. And one day I'm like, I need to own one. And a friend of mine that's a dealer in Santa Fe sold that to me. I think that a house that has a feeling and a personality and a soul it's a little bit hard to describe, but but you know it when you're in it. And houses with history, houses that are filled with personality and filled with personal objects collected over time give a house a soul. The word home means to me is where your family is and where your roots are, and it can change over time. I for sure think of Arizona as my home. It's where I grew up and it's where my family is. I've spent a lot of time in my life. I lived in New York for 10 years, and I very much think of New York as a home as well. I don't get to be there in my day-to-day, but when I come through the tunnel in New York City, I feel home.
Bye, Homeworthy. It was great showing you around my 1926 adobe home in Phoenix, Arizona, but it is time for you to adios.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Jamie Morse. Welcome to my home in Phoenix.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Jamie Morse, and I am a luxury wedding photographer. So we are in Phoenix, Arizona right now. My home was built in the 1970s, and it was renovated right before we bought it. I'm not a trained interior designer by any means. I just like it. And so my house is kind of a conglomeration of a million things, just things that I like. Yeah, we've lived here for about 5 years now and just really love the neighborhood and really love all that Phoenix has to offer. Welcome to my entryway. This is where you come into the home. Our home is an open floor plan, but I really wanted it to feel like there were different areas. One thing that I kept seeing over and over on all the Pinterest pins that I had was every house had like a little round table where they put flowers, you know, throughout the different seasons and stuff like that. And I really wanted that. So I got this guy from this amazing store called Potato Barn. They have one in Scottsdale, which is pretty close to us. And they keep unique furniture. And so I got that there. And then this is actually something that I got my husband for our anniversary. It's actually the New York Times on the date that we got married. So I am from Maine, and we spend the majority of our summers back home in Maine. So this is a little lobster guy that I found in one of the shops in Maine, and I just love him. I think he's so cute. My husband is also into watches. So one year for Christmas, I got him this little watch book that just tells different stories about, he also is a big Mercedes fan and has a Mercedes, and there's something about, there's a certain type of clock in the Mercedes that he loves. So that's all about that. And then over here is one of my favorite spaces. It's where all my knickknacks go. So this is pretty much all stuff that I've collected or made. Like I said, I'm a photographer, but I love painting in the off season. I cannot do people. I am horrible at people, but if I have something to go off from, I can usually kind of do it. So painted this swan guy a couple months ago when I was just bored and wanted to do something a little bit artistic with my hands. My husband and I took a clay pottery class a little while ago, and his was this perfect, you'll see it in the kitchen later, this perfect cup, and mine is this wonky design thing, but you know, it's fun. These are different things that we've collected from our trips. I love the ocean. I love the sea. I feel so calm on the beach. And so these are different things. This is from a Mexico trip that we took with our kids. And then these are actually, we just went to Tulum, and I found these and I brought them home from Tulum, and my husband always thinks I'm crazy. He's like, why are you packing that? And I'm like, because I love it and it's free. And then this is actually a find from Mexico. These are little silhouette things that I've done of our kids. So our two twin boys, our 4-year-old and our 2-year-old, obviously she was a lot younger then. And then as a photographer, I'm a huge fan of photo booths. I make my husband and my kids do them every place we go. If I see a photo booth, I'm like, photo booth, let's go. So this is from a bunch of one from when my babies were just babies, and they're 9 now. So there's some in there. There's some from a place called Buffalo Chip that my husband and I love to go to. These, I love to dry flowers. I have a garden out back that you guys will see later. And those are dried flowers that I had from my daughter's, I believe it was her announcement. So my youngest two, Olivia, she's 4, and Violet, she's 2. We adopted them, and we adopted them through the foster care system. And when we found out that Violet was coming to us, I made like a little announcement thing and laid her down and put flowers all around it. And that's what those pressed flowers are from. And then another little decor trick, I guess, that I love to do is when I go places, I love to either go to a home store, but if I'm going to like a more remote place, they often don't have home stores, but they have Goodwills and they have thrift stores. And so just to get something that's like a little bit like the locals, I'll go to those. So I got this from a Goodwill in Cape Cod. It's like a traditional Cape Cod basket that you'll see everywhere. But I only had to pay like $2 for it, so it was great. This, this came all the way from Minnesota. It has moved with us everywhere. It was a purchase that my dad, who is a logger, was like, "What is that?" But I love it, and I think it really adds to the whole wall. So this is my entrance wall. So my husband and I just went to Tulum, and I said the one thing I want to get is a new chandelier. And we walked into one of these Tulum home stores, and I found this guy, and I love him so much, and I will treasure him for forever. So I find a lot of my inspiration from my travels. A lot of the stuff that you'll see throughout the house is either collected from different places that we've been, like Mexico. We just went to Tulum recently, and I got a couple things from there. I also love knickknacks. I love them so much, and I try to pick them up just from wherever we've been, whether it's a family trip or it's just me and my husband, or even a work trip for me. I travel around the country and around the world, honestly, to photograph weddings. And so I try to usually schedule like a day on the front end or a day on the back end just for me, just to be able to explore wherever I am. And I like picking up little things there. So a lot of my style is just little things picked up here and there. I also follow a ton of interior designers on Instagram. I love just scrolling Pinterest. And honestly, it's just what I like. It's not a specific style. The one thing that I will say is I love minimalism. I like to keep it a little bit more clean lines, a little bit more simple, just because I have 4 kids and they have a ton of stuff. And their stuff is everywhere. Our house never looks this clean. And so I try to keep it a little bit more calm and sparse so that when all of their toys are scattered throughout the room, I'm not like freaking out. So let's go see the rest of the house. So like I said, our house is open concept. It's very wide, and so it felt bare not having anything here. So we made a little seating area. I found this guy on Facebook Marketplace, and I told my husband that I was buying it for him, and then when I brought it home, he was like, "What is that?" But I love it, and so maybe it was more for me. We have a mini couch that I believe is from CB2. It's the boucle, and then a little ottoman, I guess. And then over here we have some pictures before our number 4 came into the family from Daniel Kim, who is a phenomenal artist that is actually local to Arizona. And then here, this is kind of our family's motto, I guess. It just tells about how we want our home to be a safe, a loving place for anyone that comes in, and that all people feel welcomed here. So that's just a little reminder for us and for our kids of how we want to treat people when they are in this house and outside of the house too. So I actually started my photography journey because I knew that I wanted to stay home with my kids, or let me rephrase. I thought I wanted to stay home with my kids full time, and I was like, I should have like a side hobby or something that I can do, you know, at nights or on the weekends or something, but be able to stay home with my kids. So I picked up photography, honestly, just for that. I took a class in college, and all of my classmates were like, "You're really talented at this. You should continue this." And I was like, "Nah, I'm I just want to make a couple $100 here and there. And it just snowballed. I started it in Wisconsin, moved it to Minnesota, then moved it to Maine, and then moved it out here. And now I travel the world. And yeah, like I said, it just kind of snowballed and it turned into something that I realized, no, actually, I really want to do this as a full-time career. I literally love every minute. I love weddings. I love that I get to do stills and fashion and editorial and candids. It's just like all the things that I loved in one day, and everyone's happy. Everyone is happy. People are always like, how do you do weddings? I'm sure it's so stressful. And I'm like, it is a beautiful party. Everyone is so excited to be there, and everyone's on their best behavior until, later in the night. But then I'm usually gone, so it's fine. So it's really, really, really fun. And on the weekends that I don't have weddings, I'm always like, dang it, I wish I was at a wedding. So yeah, it's been a really fun career. And now we'll go into the dining room. So this is our dining room. One thing that I really love is using my artwork for display. So I will do like a photo shoot just to get artwork for the house. So this is a photo shoot that I did years ago, but I really love it. This is our dining room table that has been with us for years, and it has nicks and marks and nail polish and all the things on it that show that it has been well loved. These are acrylic chairs that I love for cleaning. If you have kids, these are amazing. All you have to do is wipe them off. Honestly, sometimes I bring them outside and I hose them off with the hose. So that's really great. They do show fingerprints though, so that's a bummer. But one thing about our house is that everything is a little loved. Everything is a little nicked, a little scratched, a little broken, because we have 4 children and I want them to be able to feel comfortable in their house. They still get in trouble for, drawing on my couch and stuff like that. But for the most part, I want them to be able to feel comfortable and their friends to be able to feel comfortable and to just, act like this is their home. So that's this. I love this guy. I've really tried to match the different chandeliers in our house to kind of all feel the same. So we have the black going with the black of the entryway, and then we have a huge chandelier outside that kind of mimics this, and it's kind of like a mixture of both of the chandeliers that are in here. It's part of the kitchen, part of the dining room. This is usually where we put like all of our food out if we're having parties and stuff like that. I love this brass rod that I got from Duval Kitchens. And just all the different nicks and knacks that I have found throughout the years. I have a friend that does amazing pottery. Her name is Campfire Pottery. She's based out of Maine. And so that's one of her cups. And then they did like an oyster plate making event, and I went to that. So that's my handiwork, and that actually doesn't look horrible, so that's great for me. And these are all different shells that I found in Mexico when we went on our most recent trip with our kids to Mexico. Like I said earlier, one of my favorite things is just to be on the beach and just walk up and down the beach and look for different shells and different fun things. So this is a way to make it look a little bit more like art. These are cocktail napkins, and they're one of my favorite things because you probably can't tell, but there's tiny little writing on them that says, please leave by 9. So it's just a subtle hint. When I give someone their cocktail and I put their cocktail on there, it's like, I don't want you here all night. I love you, don't want you here all night. So that's what those are. You need this when you have 4 kids. This is one of my prized possessions, espresso machine. I use this thing every day. I use it multiple times a day. The best thing I've probably ever purchased. And then I love this cup. My husband and I took a day trip over to California, and we went to the Beverly Hills Hotel, and so got this. And I love just either having my tea out of it or my coffee in the morning. Just kind of makes me feel like I'm back in Beverly Hills. So this is my bar cart, our little bar area. One thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to fill the wall with different menus of places that we've been to. So these are all different places from all around the world that we've been to. This is from a vineyard in Napa. This is also from a vineyard in Napa where we did like a private wine tasting. Petite Jacqueline is actually no longer available or no longer open, but that is a place that we went to with my son when he was like 3 or something, and he ordered frog legs and had this like whole fancy experience back in Maine. This is actually from a trip that we took to Iceland. We found the cutest little restaurant in the middle of nowhere and was probably the best meal that I've had to date. It was so amazing. So that's from that. This is actually, I liked this one. So this isn't really from a very, like not a great memory, I guess you could say, but it's just from like Guy Fieri's, I think, restaurant in one of the Mexican airports, but I like the skull and stuff, so I thought I'd keep it. And then my husband and I had a private dinner, and so we didn't have a menu for that one, but we had a private chef come and cook us dinner and teach us how to cook some different things, and so that picture is from there. This is from from Delilah, which is in Las Vegas. We went there last year, I believe. And then all the other things. Oh, and then this is also from Mexico. There's a drink on there called the Violet Hills, and my daughter's name is Violet, so I thought that was really sweet, and that's the drink that I ordered. And then, yeah, just a bunch of different fun stuff. These are actually both corks from when we've gone to like a really fancy restaurant and gotten a really expensive bottle of wine. I like to save the cork and make like a little note about where we were, when we had it, what was like, you know, why were we there type of thing. So that's what those are from. And yeah, love this little area. So right off of the kitchen is this lovely armoire that I got from Minnesota, and we have traveled it to each one of the different places that we've lived in. And right now it holds all my decor. It is stacked full, and you guys will not see inside of there because it's not pretty. But on top are all of my plants. I love having live plants and faux plants throughout the house. Live plants obviously closest to the window, but then obviously there's places where they are not going to thrive if they are in the middle of a dark room. So that's where the faux plants are. But all these guys are live, and for the most part, they're not dead. I have like a semi-green thumb, so they're doing okay. And then right off from where the armoire is this little wall. So we had planned actually on opening this all up and just doing a huge slider wall. And then once we go outside, you'll realize why we didn't do that. But so for right now, we have this little area. And one thing that I did is I framed letters that my husband had written to me. He is a wordsmith. I am not. And he loves to write me letters. And these are actually from a trip that we took before we had kids. So like, I don't know, solid 12 years ago or something like that. When we actually came on vacation here to Phoenix. It was the cheapest place that we could fly to. We were young and very broke, and we came here and he wrote me little letters for each day that we were in Phoenix. So if you look closely and you read them, you'll see like little things about like, oh, it's so fun being here in Phoenix. And so I just thought it was like a full circle moment to hang those up on the wall. This is our main living space. It's a bigger space, and so I wanted to fill it with a lot of comfy furniture, but also I'm very design-minded. And so bought this little curved couch, and when I bought it, my husband was like, Jamie, can we buy a comfy couch? Does it have to always look cool? And I was like, it's always gonna look cool. We're never gonna buy just solely based off of comfort, but it's actually great. It's actually a really great couch. We really love it. And then this coffee table during COVID, like I said, I'm a wedding photographer, and there weren't weddings going on during COVID. And so my husband had just moved into a new office, and his boss had asked me to decorate their office. And so this was I brought these tables into their office and had them in a couple different areas. And after seeing them in person, I was like, oh my gosh, I need one of these so bad. And so bought this guy. It's one of my favorite things. Again, I said my dad's a logger. And so I have a lot of wood elements in here, and it just reminds me of them. They live back in Maine, and so I don't get to see them too often. So it's just a little homage to my dad. And then on the coffee table are, again, knickknacks that I have found through our travels. This is from Mexico. I spent hours in this like very stuffed couple of floors store where they just had everything everywhere, and found that little guy, found these little balls. This is from our most recent trip to Tulum. It has a little bunny on it. We had a house bunny, and he sadly passed away, so that's a little in remembrance of him. And then this candle is massive, and we did not have cars when we were in Tulum. We just biked around to different places, and so I made my husband carry that on his bike. He had it like in one arm and was just biking down the road, you know, a couple miles back to our house. But I was like, I need this. So that's what that guy is. And then my husband actually does a lot of concrete work for us. He doesn't do it like for anyone else, but he made this for me. I had seen it on Pinterest again and was like, I would really love this. So the top part is actually hollow. He just made, I believe he used like plywood and made like a little casing and then just kind of smear coated it with concrete. But then these guys are actually solid concrete. So this guy, he ain't going anywhere. And then I would love to not have a TV in our living room. That would be the ideal situation, but that's just not reality. So this was me giving in. Like I said, I love to collect things from travels. I actually got to shoot at Amangiri, which is a luxury hotel based in Utah. As like a parting gift, I found a tumbleweed and took that home with me. And my husband again was like, why are you bringing all the weird things home? And that's why, because it looks cool. And then, like I was saying before, I love to paint. So this is just another painting that I've done. I had found something like that on Pinterest and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that so much. And then just kind of gave it my spin on it. But this fireplace is usually going all winter long, even if it's like 70 degrees out, just because I love the ambiance of it. So yeah, we really love this area.
My favorite space in my home is probably actually the outside. We just redid our backyard patio. We had been wanting to redo it for quite some time and we just redid it last summer. It's amazing. I love it so much. I got to design it exactly how I wanted to design it, that was the first thing that I was able to design from the very bottom all the way, to the top. So that was a really fun project for me. And also the weather here in Arizona is amazing, except for in the summer. But during the majority of the year, it's really, really great. And so we spend 90% of our days probably outside in that patio, whether it's, around Christmas time and we have a Christmas tree out there and we're watching Christmas movies, or if it's in, the spring and we're having pool parties back there. So that's probably my favorite room, even though it's not really a room, but it's my favorite space for sure.
All right, now we'll go outside to my favorite area in the house. So welcome to my back patio. In Arizona, we have really nice weather almost all year round, so we definitely have that indoor-outdoor living. So this is almost like our second living space. So we just have some outdoor furniture here. We have some lamps that aren't plugged into anything, but they look cute. And then this is probably one of my favorite things out here. I actually won it. I was about to buy it and they were doing a giveaway for it on Instagram. And so I was like, you know what? I'll try. And I actually ended up winning it, so it was great. But it's one of my favorite things. It's from Mexico. It's handmade by artisans out there. So really, really love that guy. And then I designed this whole area. This used to be almost like an L shape. And then there was like rocks in the middle, and it wasn't conducive for having parties or just even hanging out here. Like if it was more than just our family, it really was so squishy. And so when we did the renovation, I knew I wanted to open it up and I wanted to make it really, really high, so that it just felt more open and more airy. I also, like I had said earlier, I'm also pretty minimalistic and I love modern lines and stuff like that. And so I really just wanted everything to be straight lines. So we have a little sitting area over there where I will work during the day and stuff like that. And then we have this living area and this ginormous TV that my husband needed for some reason. And I hated it at first, and then we had a pool party and we were able to very clearly watch the movie from the pool, and I was like, okay, it's kind of cool. And then over here is kind of our dining area that we have for the outside. My husband made this concrete table. He's made a couple for us. This is the most recent one. And then I was on Pinterest again and saw at a restaurant, I believe, they had these type of cactus pads up on the wall. They were real. And I love getting design inspiration from restaurants. I think that it's just so different than home, but I think that they can work so well in the home. And so I was like, I really want to do that. I also don't really want to get new cactus pads every single day when, you know, they dry out from the Arizona heat. So I made these out of clay, and I just really love them. And then we have a couple different plants here and there that can withstand the Arizona summers. And also we do get frost here, and it does freeze here. So these guys are actually able to both be in the really hot and also not die in the really cold. So in our backyard, I really, like I said before, I really love modern, clean lines. It really helps my brain function well. And I really wanted to get the pool redone, but it was just out of the budget. So to give the illusion that our kiddie pool is a square, I wanted to make all these lines just a big square. So we just have a straight line out here, and then we have our checkerboard pattern that matches out front. We had originally ordered custom big blocks like this, and they all came broken, so that was really fun. And so we ended up just deciding to do the 4 small blocks together, and I think it really adds to the space. But we are out here all the time. As soon as the pool is warm enough to swim in, we are out here all afternoon, all day through the summer. So this is my garden. It actually used to be, that's an RV gate over here. And so this used to have a huge shed right here, and then it was just dirt. And it just felt like the space could be so much better. And I love gardening. And here in Arizona, you can garden all throughout the year. It's not just one, you know, in the summer or the spring or whatever. You can garden in the winter, you can garden in the summer. We just have like shorter growing seasons. So you just have to make sure that you're using the right plants and stuff like that. But I love gardening. I got it from my grandpa. He has a huge garden. I have so many memories of going over to his house and being in his massive, like, I believe they're blackberries, patch that he had, and just looking at all that type of stuff. So this is my Zen space. My kids come out here and I'm out here by myself. I'm always like, get back inside. This is Mama's space. Here we just have this is where I drink my wine and have a little day in the garden. This tree is a Tangelo tree, I believe. And the oranges from this are so good. They're so delicious. And then we have, this is a pomegranate tree. We're kind of in the right before spring season, so everything is just starting to produce the little tiny leaves. And then some of the stuff is just coming back from getting a little bit frostbitten. So we have 3 different garden beds, and some of the stuff will stay year round. So like this rosemary will stay year round, that lavender will stay year round. But then the other like flowering plants, those I'll have to, you know, pull out and stuff like that. I don't really garden too much vegetables, but I do a lot of herbs. We use a lot of herbs in our cooking when I cook. And so there's a lot of that in here. And then also I love flowers too. So there's always a lot of cut flowers that I can bring in or that I can bring to neighbors or friends and stuff like that. So this is This is one of my favorite spots in the house. This is actually just for architecture, but I feel like it just adds a little bit of a height. I actually just planted these guys last summer or something like that. The sun, so this is west facing. So it gets so hot back here, especially against the reflection of the wall from the house. And so I have to have these umbrellas here to give these guys a little bit of shade throughout the day. But I planted these guys, which are native to Arizona and can withstand the heat. They're Texas sage, I believe. And hopefully this will grow up a little bit higher and just be a little bit more protective shade for each of the planters so that not everything turns into crispy leaves in the middle of the summer. This is my daughter's room. Come on in. We just redid this for the girls for Christmas. Our youngest was in a crib, and we just transitioned her into a big girl bed. So we wanted it to make it this huge event, you know, for them. So one, that she would stay in her bed, but that she'd also feel comfortable. So we got them these, it's a really small room. So I had to get a bed frame that didn't have a headboard. But I love the scalloped, I guess this would be like molding, that I put up on the wall and kind of gave it like a little bit more of a headboard look without an actual headboard. This is a painting that I made years ago, and we have always had our crib in here that we have had foster kiddos in. So all of my kids that have gone through my house have been able to fall asleep underneath this. And so that means a lot to me. This was a Facebook Marketplace find. I'm really good at Facebook Marketplace. And then just a couple little knickknacks. Again, our honey bunny, and different books that just talk about like our girls being strong. We have Beyonce on the top because obviously, and then just women in art is a really cool book that I love reading to my girls, and I love having for my girls. I often I thought to myself that an artist was a less than job. It was just kind of like we don't need art. And then when COVID happened, I was like, no, we need art. We all consume art in one way or another. And so I really just want my girls to be able to know that they can be whatever they want to be. If it's an artist, if it's a teacher, if it's a CEO of a huge corporation, they can do it, and that it's meaningful. And so just have a couple of those as reminders for them. And then this guy actually is another Facebook Marketplace find. A mom was selling it, and I was getting it right before we adopted Olivia. And so she was like, I'm really excited for it to go to a good home, and I was really excited to take it from her. And then just a couple other things, purses from friends that have bought them for Olivia, our daughter, and then a purse that we got for her from Mexico. So this is their tiny little space for themselves. So this is my boys' room. They are now 9, and they wanted to choose their own design for their room. So again, for Christmas, we kind of redesigned their room a little bit. Mom has always had it be neutrals and like very mom friendly. And so this year I actually finally allowed them to have their own take on it. And so this is their wall where they get to have all their neon and their trophies and they're colorful and stuff like that. And I can't see it from out there. So it's perfect. My dad actually made this pegboard for me for Christmas like 5 years ago. And it is one of my favorite things. If our boys at one point tried to staple something to it, and I lost it and was like, absolutely not, that is mine. You will not do that to my board. So that's one of my favorite things. But this year I really tried to incorporate neon in a tasteful way for them. So we have a bunch of different neons. They're really into sports. So we got the sports neons. We've got actually one of our sons made this. And so did he make that one or that one? I think my husband actually made this one. And then my son made that one that's over there. But then we have different patches from different places that we've been. We try to collect a patch from every different place that we take a vacation or that we visit. So they have all of that. And then just some cute knickknacks. This is actually not built in. This is I believe it's from Crate & Barrel. Again, found it on Facebook Marketplace. The boys used to have single beds, just twin beds, and they really wanted bunk beds because that's what kids want. So we got them bunk beds, and they each have a little light and then a little shelf to put all their knickknacks and all of their junk on when they go to sleep, and their books that they're reading for school and stuff like that. So I made this wall black and white, neutral, so that when I walk down the hallway, this is all I see, and I don't get stressed out about the colors, and I still allow them to live their life, and Mama gets to live hers. So these are all different professional athletes that my boys love. So that's their mama wall. So welcome to the primary bedroom. This bedroom is all the way in the back of the house, and like I had said earlier, we're going to be doing phase 2 remodel. We're going to eventually get an arched door right here so it lets in a little bit more light, but there is only one window back here, and we really don't get light until the afternoon, so it's much more of a cozy feel, and I really wanted to amplify that instead of fighting against that. So I painted this like a greenish, did the ceiling, did the walls, did everything, had darker curtains, just to give it that more cozy vibe. I'm really honestly only back here when I'm sleeping or waking up, and so I wanted it to be able to feel cozy and feel comfortable. So this is a lime wash that I did on the walls. I love lime wash. I feel like it adds so much depth and texture to the room without adding, textiles and stuff like that. So I love that. And then this was actually my COVID project. I saw again on Pinterest a hotel that had a bed very similar to this. And I really wanted it, and so I made it. And so I was at the fabric store probably every other day because I would not buy enough fabric or not buy enough stuffing. But I made that, and then I wrapped our box spring actually in the same fabric and stuffing so that it has a built-in look to it, but it's actually not. So over here I have a little mood board, and I love these. They just make me so happy. They're little knickknacks from our travels, from our life. They're pictures. There's just a million different things that every day when I wake up, I get to look at them and be like, oh yeah, I remember that trip. Oh yeah, remember when my babies were sweet and nice and young and little? And so I really love being able to wake up to that every day. And then over here we have a green dresser to kind of just match with all the other green stuff going in the room. My husband bought me these. I love coffee table books. It's an obsession. And I have 70 million probably. And he bought me these, and then a good girlfriend of mine bought me these. Another thing I really like to do is I like to buy these glass boxes. And whenever we have like a birthday party or like some big event in our life, I like to bring all little things from it. So whether it's a menu or some photos, or like this one is from my daughter's second birthday. It was the first birthday that we were able to celebrate with her. She came to us when she was about 1.5 years. So these are all from, this is the little hat that she wore. And then me and her and I had matching sunglasses. So just little things for me to look at every day and just remember, different fun parts of our lives. So welcome to the primary bath. It's very dark in here, but I feel like it really makes the primary bed and the primary bath go together. Before we had painted in here, we would have the neighborhood kids over, and they would be running into our room because they would just think it was, part of the other parts of the house. And I was like, hey, we got to have our own space. So I really feel like this kind of makes it our own little wing of the house. I love these things. so much. They're from Rhone Iris. They get sold out almost every time that they like put a new shipment up. But I think they're just so beautiful. And then this is actually also from Rhone Iris. This is a painting that I drew when I was bored and wanted to do something. But yeah, this is where I get ready in the morning.
Home to me means safety. My husband and I were foster parents for about 5 years. One of my biggest things is that I wanted kids to come into our home and it not to feel too stuffy or too stiff or like they were gonna get in trouble if they jumped on the couch or, you know, just little things like that. I wanted them to feel safe. I just want everything to feel like a second home to any guest that we have in here.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.